Cognitive function. Adequate sleep is crucial for optimal cognitive function, including memory consolidation, problem solving abilities, creativity, and overall mental clarity. Physical health. Quality sleep is essential for physical health and well being. It plays a vital role in immune function, metabolism regulation, hormone balance, and cardiovascular health. Emotional regulation. Sleep deficiency can lead to irritability, mood swings, and heightened stress level. Talking about the SAMS Welfare Foundation, we are a section of eight not-for-profit companies registered under the Companies Act in 2013 with the various recognition from Niti Aayog, MSME, MPCON, DDU, GKY, and more. Recognized as a startup by DIPP, MSI, MCI, and awarded Best Service Award for National Contribution. SAMS Group, with an active network of 5,000 plus professionals, published books and an international journal, organized education and health camps for underprivileged children, promoted digital and financial literacy, and contributed to society. Our initiative, DIGISAKSHAM, has developed content for 300 plus courses in IT, BFSI, retail, entrepreneurship, impacting diverse age groups. We have executed a scaling project for 600 inmates, signed MOUs for training, collaborated with race organization, and conducted international conferences. FM leads and other SAMS initiatives empowers women through workshops and newsletter, conducting awareness programs in digital literacy, marketing, and career development across different industries. We have impacted over 1,000 women across states and recently celebrated a milestone of 100 women associated with the program. On behalf of the whole SAMS family, I welcome you all for today's international webinar on sleep, the foundation of success. And to our guest of honor, today's speaker is Manohar Gandhi. It is a great honor to have you with us, sir. We are grateful for your presence here with us today. Let me introduce to our speaker. He is from Hyderabad, India. He has been working in the software industry for last 15 years. He has hobbies of reading books and watching movies. In 2019, he struggled with insomnia and was living in a depression to sleep. He had consultation with psychologists who helped him to a certain extent, but because he was desperate to fix the problem, he was put on anti-anxiety pills. But then during the struggle, he was researching, found out about the practice of meditation. He was expecting instant result with a meditation too, but unfortunately, that was not the case. But then he stuck with the meditation, and with the time, his anxiety completely reduced, and he had no problem in sleeping. He has written a book on his journey, and it is called My Sleepless Nights, available on Amazon. He has a total of 3 books published on Amazon. Now that he has overcome the issues with the sleep, he helps people make the transition from anxious sleepless nights to peaceful sleeping nights.
Yeah, thank you, Yashika, and I see a lot of good work being done by DIGISAKSHAM. So yeah, so I have already given this presentation, I think 6 months back, and it's happy to be back and give this presentation. So I'm sharing my screen. So first of all, I'd like to thank all of you for joining this webinar. And I want to appreciate everyone for so that because you're joining to understand on a very crucial topic of sleep. So before I start, I just like to share one small story. You can take this story for sleep. You can take this story for anything in life. Okay, so the story starts something like this. Once upon a time, there was a very learned professor. So basically, he was from a very high institute. He had all the academic research. So he had all the degrees, all the qualifications. He wanted to learn about meditation and basically mindfulness. So he came to a monk monastery, and then he started talking. Continuously, he was talking. And then the monk saw this professor, said, I see that you're talking. I feel you're tired. Why don't you have some tea? The professor was very happy. He got some break. So he said, yeah, I'll have some tea. The monk bought a kettle of tea and a cup of tea. He started pouring in, pouring. So the cup was full, but then the monk was still pouring. The tea was overflowing. The professor said, what are you doing? Are you out of your mind? Why are you still pouring when the cup is full? The monk smiled and said, this is the exact attitude with which you have come to learn. You have kept your cup full and you are trying to pour into that. Only when you empty the cup, you will learn something. So I would say like this story is about emptying your cup. So only when you empty your cup, you will be able to learn. So I hope you will all empty your cup, come with a empty mind, and then learn these things. Okay, let's start. So Yashika, thank you for the beautiful introduction. Yeah, I'll just briefly run through. So I started working in the software industry since 2008, and I'm from Hyderabad. In 2019, I was struggling with sleep, and this is me just reading my book, and for a picture pose I'm doing it. So I like to first ask, so you can type in the chat box also, how many of you have this alarm? So this is my morning alarm which is saying that it's time to wake up. So how many of you have this thing on your phone? It could be anything. So how many of you have an alarm to say it's time to wake up? So you can say yes, or you can say like what is the time you have when your alarms get started. So anyone, or you can even raise your hands. So anyone, yeah, okay, good. I see someone raising their hands. So anyone, okay, I just see only one person raising their hand. So not all of you have an alarm to say it's time to wake up. Okay, so if people are finding it difficult to raise your hands, you can also enter in the chat box saying yes. Okay, so I see some difficulty with this question, but I'm assuming that most of you will have an alarm to say it's time to wake up. So I'm going ahead with this fair assumption. Okay, so let me ask you this question: how many of you have an alarm to say it's time to sleep? So yeah, I put a confused smiley intentionally because do people have an alarm to say it's time to sleep? So is anyone having an alarm to say it's time to sleep? Definitely you can raise your hand or put it in the chat box. Okay, so I guess some problem is there with you in the chat box. Okay, let's start. So by the end of this section or this presentation, I would like to tell you why is it an important thing to have an alarm to say it's time to sleep. Let's start with something called as sleep drive. Okay, so this is something called as sleep drive. What happens is, let's say this. I'll explain this with a typical example of mine, and then we can extrapolate it. So for example, today morning, let's say I woke up at 6:30. Okay, so if I woke up at 6:30, and if you ask me like go back to sleep, right? So it will be very difficult for me to go to sleep because my sleep drive is very low. Okay, so as the minute progresses, as 1 hour progresses, as 2 hours progresses, so almost it's like it's 7 o'clock, right? So my sleep drive could be somewhere here. But if it is 10 o'clock, my sleep drive will be somewhere here. But if it is something like 11 o'clock or 11:30, let's say, my sleep drive will be very high. So if you ask me to concentrate, if you ask me to study, if you ask me to do anything, right? It will become very difficult because my sleep drive is beyond the sleepiness threshold. Okay. So because of that, it will become very difficult. So let's say I sleep at 11:30 or something like that. Okay. So as I'm sleeping, my sleep drive is reducing. It's reducing until morning 5, or 6, where the sleep drive is very less. Okay. So, and then again, the same cycle continues every day. Okay. So, this is how a sleep drive is built. So, sleep drive is the force with which you are feeling sleep. Okay. So, this is a typical sleep drive. Okay, so let's start with what is really important when it comes to sleeping. So first thing I'll talk about is called sympathetic versus parasympathetic nervous system. So this is a sympathetic nervous system. Imagine that, yeah, I know I'm taking an extreme example. Somewhere there's fire and you're stuck in that fire. Okay, the first thing what will happen is your heartbeat will increase. The blood will flow faster to you. You will have all the energy that is there to escape from that situation. So this is when you are primarily activating the sympathetic nervous system. Whereas the next one, the parasympathetic nervous system. So imagine you're sitting in a cool place like this, where there's no danger. You're sitting in nature. So the brain understands that there is no danger. So your heart rate is slower. So here, primarily what happens is the food that we eat gets digested. Restoration happens in the body. New blood cells are formed, and all these things happen. So this is typically what happens in parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is called as fight or flight, and the parasympathetic nervous system is called as rest or digest. So the next question would be, I gave away the answer. So what is an ideal ratio of this time that you have to spend in sympathetic versus parasympathetic? So the answer is as close to 50-50 as possible. Okay. There's a reason for this. Okay. So because if we spend most of the time in parasympathetic sympathetic nervous system, that is running away, doing something, doing a task and all those things, what will happen is your activity level is high, your heartbeat is faster, your blood is faster. So obviously, because some things are faster, damage will happen. If you spend most of the time in sympathetic nervous system, obviously your health will go for a toss. And similarly, if you spend most of the time in parasympathetic nervous system, that is most of the time in relaxed kind of thing, also it's not good. So it should be as close to 50-50 as possible. So let's go to stages of sleep. Sleep generally happens something called as, there are basically broadly two stages of sleep. One is called NREM and the second one is called REM. NREM stands for non-rapid eye. And then non-rapid eye movement is also classified in four stages. You can call it as stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. For this, actually, I have a simple analogy you can. Let's assume that I'm a hill climber. I start on the hill, so a mountain something like this. So I'm somewhere in the base, right? I start climbing and I realize that, oh, I forgot water or I forgot something. I can immediately go back. So similarly, stage 1 is where you can, so for example, let's say, since I gave the example of 11:30, right? So 11:30, I go to sleep. At 11:40, if someone rings a bell or if there's a power cut or if there's some dog barking, I can immediately wake up. It's very easy for me to wake. But then let's say 20 minutes has passed. So I came to stage 2. Now, so take the hill example itself. 20 minutes you climb, right? You climb little bit higher. But again, if you have to go back, you need to take a lot of path. So similarly, at stage 2, waking up is little more difficult. Similarly, at stage 3, waking up is even more difficult. Stage 4 is something like this. At the peak of the hill, you come to the peak of the hill. So if someone wakes you up at stage 4, it will be difficult, right? So the first part is the ascent, going up the hill, and the second part is going down the hill, right? So I'm sure everyone will agree, going up the hill is pain, going down the hill is fun, right? So the second one is part is called as rapid eye movement, which is the REM phase. This is what happens is, slowly as you keep going into sleep, that is climbing up the hill, your body starts becoming more and more less active, right? So, and at the base top of the hill, your body is completely paralyzed. So it's very less active. That is when actually what the brain does is, it does some kind of cleaning. And when it does this kind of cleaning, it does so much of operation. So for you to not understand this, right, in rapid eye movement, you start getting dreams. So dreams are phase where you see in the REM phase. Okay. So that is a stage of sleep. Yeah, let's talk with struggle of sleep. Yashka rightly said, like, I was struggling with sleep, right? So when I was struggling with sleep, I had, so this is actually called as Russian dolls. So the outer one is the outside person, and the inner ones are the inner things that are there in everybody. So when I was struggling with sleep, I had all this question: is my pillow changed? Is there going to be a power cut? Is anyone snoring? Did someone switch on the light? I always had some or the other kind of tension in mind. So because of that, what happens is, there was some kind of a danger. So I explained in starting, when there is a fire, right? What will get activated is the sympathetic nervous system. So what happens is, my sympathetic nervous system was getting active, and I'll come to this. So typically, when you see what is the brain designed for, the first thing is, it wants to survive. It wants to avoid pain and move towards pleasure, right? So we discussed about the sleepiness threshold, right? So the typical cycle is, everyone has to move in this blue cycle. But when there is a danger, instead of going into the sleep drive, our brain will automatically reduce the sleep drive because it wants to solve the problem. Okay. So instead of going in this upward trajectory, it goes in the downward trajectory. So yeah, we talked. So let's talk about what will do go in downward direction. So the first thing is things to avoid. The first thing is, yeah, though it is not universal, but coffee, as per science, says that it will reduce your sleep drive.
स्लीप रेट कम होता है कॉफी पीने से।
Sleep drive कम होता है. Sleep drive.
स्लीप रेट,
Sleep
सोने का
drive.
रेट, सोने की शक्ति कम हो जाती है।
Not yeah, we'll talk about this, sir. But actually, it's not universal. It's not universal, but in most of the cases, it is true. Yeah, the next one is alcohol. So many people think that what's there? You can drink alcohol and go to sleep. But then the problem is when you drink alcohol and sleep, the REM phase gets compromised. So that is the one problem. The next thing that happens is that will hamper your sleep is heavy dinner. If you have heavy dinner, and of course, I've taken this photograph where there is so much of processed. So when you have a heavy dinner and with processed food, what happens is digestion takes most of the energy and you can't go to good sleep. And definitely when you end the day with a feeling of anger, okay, so when you're ending the day with a feeling of anger, you are saying that there is some danger. When there is some danger, the sympathetic nervous system gets activated. It says go solve the problem, go do something, get out of this situation. So in that case, you can't go to good have a good night's sleep. And yeah, one of the main culprit is if you spend a lot of time with news channels, right? Definitely, most of the news channels spread a lot of negativity, and this creates a lot of problems. And of course, most of the people are guilty of this, which is having screens. So, generally, our screens, the mobile, the laptop, or anything, are really addictive in nature. So, when they are addictive, right, they give you more pleasure. When pleasure is more, the brain wants more and more pleasure. So, that will go in an eventual loop, and that will prevent you from going to sleep. So we talked about things that you have to avoid. Let's come to things to do for good night's sleep. First thing is exposure to broad sunlight. So if you remember, our ancients always had this concept of Surya Namaskara. So when you expose yourself the minute you wake up to broad sunlight, what you are actually doing is you are completely reducing the sleep drive to a minimum. And when the sleep drive is minimum, right? So the more time you are awake, right? The better are your chances to go to sleep. So first thing is exposed to morning sunlight. And of course, at the night time, as far as possible, expose yourself to less light. Having an early dinner. So since I talked about heavy dinner concept, right? If you have an early dinner, the food is digested, and when food is digested, you will be able to have a good night's sleep. And definitely, like Yashika talked about, meditation. So what meditation does is it will tell the brain that there is no danger. Of course, there are a lot of benefits of meditation, but when it comes to sleep, one of the thing that it will primarily tell is the sympathetic nervous system need not get activated because you are calming down your mind. Once you calm down your mind, the reason for your sympathetic nervous system is not activated. So you'll be able to have a good night's sleep. And definitely, one other thing that definitely helps is gratitude. When you end the day with a feeling of gratitude, so it could be small things in your life. Maybe like you had your favorite meal, maybe you got your bus, you learned something new. It could be as small as you just brush your teeth. It could be as simple as that. So when you end the day with a feeling of gratitude, you are saying that there is pleasure in my life. There is no danger in my life. When there is no danger, obviously you'll be able to sleep much better. And one of the core important things when it comes to having a good night's sleep is consistent sleep timings. When you sleep, right, it shouldn't be like one day you sleep at 11, one day you sleep at 12, one day you sleep at 10, one day you sleep at 9. If you mess up, right, it becomes a lot of problems. So having a consistent sleep timings, whether it is weekend or weekdays. So as far as possible, stick to consistency. Yeah. So I'll just talk about one very important concept, like because I talked about persistence, right? I want to share one story. So back in 1900s, I guess, there was a very famous painter called Pablo Picasso. So he was visiting New York. So a lady was there. She saw some hand brushes in his hand and said, "Can you make a portrait?" So he immediately does the portrait and gives it in just 30 seconds. He gives that portrait. So the lady wonders. What could be the cost of this? So Picasso quotes some price. So the lady thinks that 30 seconds may you can't charge this much. So Picasso says, okay, you can go to an auction center which is there nearby. Go ask the price. She goes to the auction center and then she finds out really it's true because the auctioneer clearly knows that it's Picasso's paint and he quotes a very big money. So the lady is like, boss, you are so great. It's so easy for you. 30 seconds, you're able to earn so much of money. It's nothing for you. Then Picasso says, you only see the 30 seconds of effort, but I've spent my last 30 years doing painting every day without fail. You don't see the 30 years of, because I did the last 30 years every day practicing my skill, I became so perfect that I'm able to do it in 30 seconds. So that is very important. So yeah, so these are few extra reading references which I want to give. So these are few talks and some things which I've learned. Okay. Yeah. So this is one thing. So since as Yashika talked about, this is my book. You can order it from Amazon. It's called My Sleepless Nights. So I'll just type for people on the chat box. Okay. So so you can order it on Amazon. But if you want an autographed book, so where I can give you an autograph, so you have to send an email to this email ID, which is manohar@manohargrandhi.com. Yeah, please mention the subject as autograph book so that I can see that. So, and I can send you an autograph book. Subject as autograph book, and also mention your postal address. So if you do it, I'll be able to send an autograph book to you. So yeah, so I'm open for question and answers. So yeah, as I mentioned, if you have any question other than this, you can definitely send an email to my email ID, manohar@manohargrandhi.com, and I'll definitely respond to you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for listening to this. So
Sir?
yeah,
Yes, sir. I'm Kishanti.
yeah, Kishan.
Yeah. So most of the people are struggling to sleep due to the usage of phone, mobiles.
Mhm.
So can you give me some tips to avoid this usage of phone during the night time?
Okay, so Kishanti, what do you do? What do you do on the mobile phone?
Just reels. I'm just watching reels.
Good. That's good. Okay, fine. No, no, don't feel bad. Okay, so everyone is doing it. So that's good. You're honest. That in itself is a very. You have to appreciate yourself that in front of public you are able to ask your question and show your vulnerable side. So that's very good. I appreciate you. Okay, first thing, Kishanti, what I really want you to do is okay. Let's actually go back. What is the time you go to sleep? Andaza se, roughly.
11, 11:30.
Okay, 11:30. Okay. So let's say like, so are you like spending till 11, let's take 11, okay? 11 as the figure. So are you spending time till 11, till 11 you're just watching your phone and going to just putting down the phone and going to sleep?
Sorry, sir.
So are you like, for example, are you like spending time till 11 on mobile phone, and then when the time is 11, you go to sleep? Is that the case?
No, sir. Sometimes it takes more time, but sometimes I'll switch off my phone. I try to sleep.
Okay. So Kishanti, what I would really suggest is put one time. Okay. So I'm not saying don't watch reels or anything. Okay. So put one time of 30 minutes and or 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever works for you. 20 minutes का एक अलार्म लगाओ और बाद में रील देखना शुरू, वो अलार्म खत्म होने के बाद ना switch off the reel part. Okay. If you are able to do this, right, then you are giving your brain a signal that okay, reel ka time ho gaya. So the problem is mostly I'm equally guilty of this. So what I do is I don't keep seeing. So one after the other, one after the other, they keep coming, right? And I don't realize, people don't realize the time. So if you just put one timer before, I'm not saying 20 minutes, if you want half an hour, that's also fine, but put one timer लगाओ कि 30 मिनट का टाइमर है और 20 minutes का टाइमर है और 15 minutes का टाइमर है. That's totally up to you. Put that timer, then watch. Enjoyment भी हो जाएगा, and then you are saying your time to get back, and then celebrate your thing that okay, I have stuck to my schedule. When you stuck to your schedule and have that gratitude, right, like I talked about, that is when you're giving your brain the signal that there is pleasure, there is no pain. Then you will be able to sleep much better. I
Yes,
hope
sir.
that answered your question.
Yeah, yes, sir. I'll try to put alarm.
Very good.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So, Netika, you're asking, sir, how can I have better sleep quality as a student during exams and not feel exhausted the next day? So, Netika, the same thing which I told to Kishanti. So, the thing is, when you are a student, right? So, people will spare, yeah, I have been through this stage where I have put all the effort on just studying, right? So you have to put one time, a 10 minute or 5 minutes or 10 minutes time to relax your brain. Okay, relax your brain and then go to sleep. So it's not like you keep studying, and then just go to sleep and then imagine that you'll sleep much better, but that will not happen. So just like our food, right, takes some time to digest, our mind also needs some time to digest the thoughts, the information which you're giving, right? So give the mind the time to digest. So that is where the power of meditation helps a lot. What happens is, there's a very beautiful story of the law of Buddha. So Buddha was asked, what is by a disciple, what I see you meditating a lot, what does meditation do? So Buddha said, go get me water. So the disciple goes. He goes to the stream and sees that water is flowing very fast. And then the water is muddy. He comes back to Buddha and says, I can't get you water. Buddha says, why? The water is muddy. Buddha says, go get the water and just put it like this. Okay, put it there and leave it for half an hour. So anyone can guess what happens if water is left there for half an hour? Okay, so what happens is, the mud that is on the top of this, right, that will settle to the bottom and the clear water will rise to the top. Okay, so this is exactly what Buddha says. When you allow your mind some time, the dust, the anxiety, the tension, everything will go to the bottom and the clearness will come to the top. So if you are able to do this time, so give the time to the mind to process things, that is when you'll be able to sleep much better. I hope that was, yeah, okay. Okay, so anyone has any other questions?
No, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Giri Garg from Lucknow.
Yeah.
Is there any mantra for sleep and chanting before sleep?
Sir, there are multiple ways of doing it. Okay, so one is meditation, like you said. Mantra is also, so there is one thing you have to understand is, it's not a universal thing. Okay, so matlab, what works for me need not even work for you. So you have to experiment yourself. Okay, so basic thing is, you have to tell your mind that there is nothing, there is no danger. So you could listen to like you said, I mean, I have experimented with Hare Krishna mantra. Okay, that has helped me. So you can also do anything. Okay, so Hare Krishna mantra, or you can end the day with a gratitude, a journal, a meditation. It's totally personal choice. So you could go for a walk, you could listen to a favorite music, anything that gives you pleasure and avoids anything that will say like there is some danger. If you are able to avoid that, that will help you in having a good night's.
Generally, I chant that Nidrama Nidram Dehi.
Okay.
Nidrama Nidram Dehi.
Okay.
I repeat this thing. So
Okay.
I feel this is also important mantra.
Yes, sir. I'm not saying it is not an important thing, but that's what I'm saying. Right? So it's completely personal choice. So every human being is different,
Okay.
right? So
Okay.
you it could work for you. It may not even work for me. So that is completely personal choice. But
Actually,
basic,
it is universally accepted. Nidram Dehi.
okay.
Many saints have given this mantra. Actually,
Okay. So if it's working for you, it's good, sir.
yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Welcome. Okay. So I guess no one has any other further questions.
Okay, sir, I have a question that
Yeah.
sometimes when we sleep also, we get a lot of thoughts, bunch of thoughts just smuggling up in our mind, and we can't focus on the sleep.
Mhm.
So, what is the solution for that?
Good question, Yashika. So the thing is, just like sometimes our digestion. So, for example, let's say you are eating some food. Some days you are able to digest the food much easier. Some days you're not able to digest the food. So you have your upset stomach, right? So, what is the suggested solution you will say, like when you are not able to digest the, what will you do?
What do if I will go for a walk
Yes.
or for the exercise or anything.
Yes, right. So basic thing is, you are giving the food, the digestive system, some time for it to do that stuff. So same is with the mind also. The mind also has to, like you said, some kind of thoughts or some kind of worries are there, right? So the brain also needs some time to digest. So the same thing is applicable there also. You could go for a walk, you could just go, I mean, chat with your friend if you think that helps. You could listen to your favorite music, anything that helps and says like it is pleasure, it is calm, soothing for you, right? That will definitely. So don't put the pressure that क्यों नींद नहीं आ रहा है. So the problem is with sleep, right? The more we put pressure that why am I not sleeping, the more it becomes difficult. So you have to accept that some days will be there. So just like some days you will not be able to digest food, some days you will not be able to go immediately into sleep. Some days take time. So when you accept, right, that is when half the problem is solved, right? Because there is no danger, right? The brain need not activate the sympathetic nervous system. Then when you're going with your relaxation routines, it could be music, it could be chanting, it could be meditation. Then your relaxation routine, the parasympathetic nervous system is more or less active. Once the parasympathetic nervous system is active, right, your sleep drive keeps building, and that automatically you'll be able to go to sleep. So the core thing is don't activate the sympathetic nervous system.
Thank you, sir.
So anyone else? Okay. So looks like you people understood what I intended to share. Yeah, thank you all. Sorry. Yeah, I was just saying thank you all for listening to my the presentation, and I hope this helped you.
Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, can you recommend some meditation techniques to do to have a good sleep?
Okay. So Kishanti, one thing I'll definitely recommend is something called as breath meditation. So you could do it very simple. Okay. All I would suggest is just close your eyes. Okay. So you could even open your eyes also, but the most recommended is close your eyes and then just observe the breath. Just consciously slow down your breathing. So if you notice, what I'm doing is instead of breathing, I'm doing. So I hope it was clear, right? So what I'm doing is I'm slowly breathing in and slowly releasing it. Instead of, if you do this right, this is a way to signal to your brain that there is no danger. So I keep coming back to this concept, which is activating the parasympathetic nervous system. The slower you breathe, the more are the chances that your parasympathetic nervous system gets activated. And more the parasympathetic nervous system gets activated, the better it is. So you could also try something called as 478 breathing. So the concept is you have to inhale for 4 seconds to the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then hold for 7 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then exhale for 8 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is actually called as 478 breathing. So you can find about it, you can read about it in, you'll find a lot of articles. But the core concept is very simple, which is like inhale for 4, hold for 7, and exhale for 8. Okay. So this is something that will definitely help. So yeah, so you could try anything that will basically relax you, that will put you in pleasure mode. So don't go say like, okay, Instagram reels are also giving me pleasure, but the problem is they give some other kind of pleasure. So that will be like more and more, you want more and more of that. So these kinds of things like breathing, meditation, gratitude, you'll get pleasure, but it will not be like I want more of it. So ye nahi aayega, dil mange more, ye nahi aayega. With these kind of suggestions which I'm tracing.
Sir, I have a question. How does
Yes.
adequate sleep contribute to cognitive function and academic success?
Sorry, come again.
How does adequate sleep contribute to cognitive function and academic success?
Okay, that's a very interesting question, Yashika. So I think so most of you would have seen this latest movie called 12th Fail.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so 12th Fail, may what happens is okay, for people who haven't seen, I'll just quickly give you the story. The story is about Manoj Kumar Sinha. Okay, so he is from a very backward district. Okay, and he becomes a civil servant. So it's a story of how Manoj Kumar Sinha becomes a civil servant. So if people who haven't watched it, do watch it. It's a very, very beautifully given movie. So if you watch that movie, Yashika, what happens is Manoj actually goes for a coaching institute. And coaching institute mein hota ye hai, so someone, the person says, write an essay on terrorism in India. So Manoj writes a beautiful essay. Everyone is appreciating him. So everyone gives claps. He gets a chocolate also for that. So then what happens? The next, I think, few days later, the actual exam happens, and the question is tourism in India. It's not terrorism in India. Okay. So basically, Manoj is sleep deprived. He's not sleeping well because of the tension in the exam. So if you understand terrorism, tourism, so it starts with T, ends with ism. So Manoj is like, okay, he sees that T and ism. Our brain is very good in interpreting patterns. So immediately he says, okay, so because he's sleep deprived, right? He doesn't even bother about checking the question again. And then he says like, मैंने तो बहुत अच्छा लिख दिया एग्जाम में तो it was very good. And then he says, so he says like question paper में tourism in India. So he says, okay, तुम्हारा question paper दिखाओ. So the person says, मेरा question paper देखने से question तो बदल नहीं जाएगा ना. So that is what is very important. When you sleep, you are sleep deprived, right? You are exactly, your cognitive function is not at your topmost level. So that is the risk you run into. So what will happen is you may read that thing, but you will not be able to recollect it when the thing matters. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, sir. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. So my second question is, what are some consequences of sleep deficiency on physical health and overall well-being?
Okay. So yeah, the consequences are like, there are wide range of consequences. We can't basically quantify like this is going to this is going to this, but you can definitely say, right? Like you mentioned in the initial, the overall, basically the sympathetic parasympathetic balance is completely mismatched when you are not sleeping well, right? So you could run into, one of the thing is, when you don't sleep well, your brain is not cleaning the stuff that is not needed. So what will happen if in your home, right, you have a dustbin, you don't empty it, what will happen? You'll start smelling, right? It will start smelling. So the same thing will happen. So your brain will not be able to delete the information that is not important and retain the information that is important. So that will create problems. So that is, Alzheimer's is related to that. Okay, that's called Alzheimer's. And definitely people will know that India is the diabetes capital of the world. So when you don't sleep, right, what will happen is your brain will crave for sugary foods. It will go and more. It will give you crave for sugary foods, the junk foods and all those things, right? It will crave more for that. If you're well slept, then you will think like, okay, आज मैंने बहुत junk food खा लिया, so let's eat something healthy. Okay, you will have that thing. So the simple things is that, and you will not be able to go for an exercise or all those things, right? When you're sleep deprived, brain will try to manage with whatever low resources are there.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a very good piece of advice given us to sir. Again, thank you all for attending today's webinar. If you have any additional questions, you can contact us by email or telephone. We are happy to provide you additional support too. Please follow us on